fintechs were better able to integrate data, but also work more easily with a wide variety of data sources because of just they don't have that legacy, and they could design the data architecture to be what they need or more holistic. So senior management buy-in as well. I mean that is key, and you need the right sponsors at the top. But it also then comes back down to a business case and incentives. I'm Beju Shah. I work for the Bank for International Settlements, and I head up the Nordic Centre of our Innovation Hub, which is one of several innovation centres around the world.
We hear quite a lot about cybersecurity, financial crime, especially as the industry becomes more digitalized. So what do you think are the biggest challenges that the industry faces in the advent of increased security concerns, cybercrime, sophistication from financial criminals, etc.?
What we have now in our digital and payments landscape is increasing fragmentation. I mean, you've got lots of ecosystems, high volume of data for what cyber criminals to exploit, but also for crimes to be facilitated through, and also for money to move as well. As AI tools have become more powerful, they've been exploited by a range of threat actors for things like deepfakes, which are getting increasingly sophisticated. Very hard to even pick up, but also in the analog world where you've got people printing 3D quality, high quality 3D printed masks to bypass biometrics, but also because we're so used to taking lots of images of ourselves and other things, and these are high definition things, people can 3D print fingerprints as well, and also use that to break phones. A lot of these technologies and platforms are also being used, have also created the conditions where there's lower barriers to entry for solo threat actors to also carry out cybercrime and financial crime with, based from one of the apps on your phone. It's very easy to access things like money laundering as a service or cybercrime as a service, where these tools are readily available. People will carry out these services for you for a fee. And so, you're seeing a very dynamic and changing threat landscape. On top of that, obviously, technologies like AI and other things are creating the conditions for advanced malware, very sophisticated ways to social engineer people. So, those are kind of, I would say, some of the main challenges that we're facing right now.
How do you get different entities to collaborate to fight cybercrime and financial crime?
And this is what's really interesting, because actually, in a borderless digital world where the problem that we're trying to combat is one that traverses institutions, but also traverses borders, you can only tackle it in that way. You need a data-driven approach, you need a digital-first approach, and you need an approach that goes across institutions and borders. Working in silos, working in compartmentalized ways where actually both the public and private can't really collaborate, doesn't work for a digital age. And actually the rules, in my view, need to be updated for a digital age, right? And we conducted a survey of 100 global firms, including a number of very large fintechs. 82% of them all agreed that some form of collaborative way of working, collaborative analysis, information sharing is ultimately needed. But ultimately, getting them to collaborate is understanding the nature of the threat and being able to face it head on. And I think what we have seen a shift in the last few years is a move towards more public-private collaborations, public-private partnerships. In some cases, private-private, but also, as there are some countries around the world who've said, actually, look, we need to get this holistic view. So they've set up their own national utilities. Some are for fraud and scam prevention, some are for AML.
And now I'd like to pick on the AI agents, because we keep hearing that 2025 is going to be the year of agentic AI, right? This has been labeled now. So what are the increased threats that you see in the financial system with the use of AI, especially with the use of AI agents, that make preventing cyber attacks and financial crime more challenging?
AI has both kind of the positive and then the negative impact on financial crime and financial crime prevention. I think if we start with the negative, because obviously threat actors are very quick at adopting technologies, then than the non-threat actors, public or private sector firms. I mean, criminals are adopting all this stuff at pace. I'd say with AI agents, but also just the use of it, it's the scale and the pace of the automation of the attacks. Seeing a rise in scams, you're seeing a rise in phishing, social engineering, and so on. And actually, they're much more sophisticated than they were even a year ago. I mentioned, for example, people using high quality 3D printed masks, but you combine that with voice technology, deepfake voice technology, and so on. I mean, it's frightening what's possible. That being said, I mean, we met with some tech companies earlier in the year, and they were all very worried about the deepfake challenge. Even when we met, set up a lab, robotic lab, where they could test things out and do different things. Also with the masks and the 3D printed fingerprints as well. But I saw them again 6 months later, and actually they quickly developed a solution for it. I even went through it myself, where it took a picture of me, generated a few deep fakes, and then the robot would move the phone along with the software running, and it would kind of analyze each one and go back to it, and then it kind of got confused for a little bit, and then it found it. But that was all within a minute.
Okay.
So that was pretty impressive in terms of how kind of I think that both the threats are moving quickly, but also the technology vendors are able to kind of respond. See, there is a lag, but they're able to respond. So actually, there's good and bad in terms of the pace, but it also requires agility to think about from banks, regulators, especially and also having that model around actually what risks are coming out, and actually how can we kind of adapt to a very dynamic and sophisticated threat landscape.
Are there any technologies that hold promise to be either at par with criminals or maybe even anticipate what criminals might come up with?
In many cases, the technologies there. So I mean, for example, the things that we've tested with and we know about. I mean, AI and machine learning, federated learning. Ultimately, things like AI agents are coming in there. You have biometrics and behavioral biometrics, behavioral analysis, network analysis, and so on. But that's the core. With all these things, you need to get a view of either the network over time, the behaviors in that, or actually in that moment if a fraud's occurring, actually, what are the behavioral patterns in the networks and who's connected to who. Over half of the firms in that survey had either tried or are testing things like network analysis and so on. In our project Aurora, we also use things like graph neural networks, and that obviously we're able to map the network and very suited to this type of solution. The other aspect is also in things like cross-border compliance checks, where you need to share KYC information or you need sanctions information. Privacy preserving techniques also play a huge role. So, for example, one of our centers in Singapore had a project called Mandala. So they experimented with things like secure multi-party computation between different parties to kind of showcase actually that's possible for both current systems and also future kind of digital money systems as well.
Okay. Right now, I understand that there's a recent roundtable called Strategies for the Future. Can you share what are some of the strategies that different central banks are discussing in order to be able to tackle the rise of cybercrime?
Yeah, so I would say not all central banks have that responsibility. So some of that sits with a supervisory authority. But we ran a roundtable that had various public and private experts there. I think ultimately it was the fact that one, we need better, faster technology because, as we said, various threat actors are using technology faster than everyone else can keep up with and quickly adapt to the next thing, but also very quick to exploit kind of any flaws in certain technologies as well.
Yeah.
So that was definitely one thing. I think it also comes back to the fact that, as I said, we need a cross-institution and a cross-border approach. And therefore, to unlock that, it's the use of certain technologies, obviously privacy technologies, enhancing and preserving are one key to unlock that, but also things like federated learning or other models where you can have more decentralized or federated analysis of data where you're only moving the model. In our survey to the firms as well, 74% of them cited that data integration was one of their biggest challenges.
Right.
71% said data quality, and also lack of the data standards, which was about 25% of firms. But it comes these kind of it all comes back to data and data systems, because you can use all the latest and fancy technology, but if I haven't got good foundations in place, no point. It's just a waste of money.
Right. How can organizations in the financial services develop that agility and adaptability to really move as fast as the threats? And maybe what are the main challenges that they face in being able to adapt fast enough?
If we focus on the systems for a moment, as legacy systems, we talked also about data integration and also disparate data systems that actually need to be connected. Before I mentioned how some institutions are um, want a more holistic picture of their threat landscape, so they are bringing together people, processes, and technology that cover the cyber threat intelligence, fraud prevention, AML. Um, it comes back to data and systems, and also in the survey that we did, we also saw that actually between incumbents, it doesn't matter on the geography, versus your fintechs and startups, actually that was more acute in kind of the incumbent institutions. Fintechs were better able to integrate data, but also work more easily with a wide variety of data sources, because of just they don't have that legacy, and they could design a data architecture to be what they need or more holistic. So senior management buy-in as well. I mean, that is key. And you need the right sponsors at the top, but it also then comes back down to a business case and incentives. So we talked a lot about technology, and I see the same things that I've mentioned just maturing and being applied. But I also see it's actually more about you talked about that mindset shift, or the people shift around that. And I think actually the real promise, and actually what we're seeing more and more of, is that realization that actually you do need to collaborate, you do need to work across institution, you do need to be able to share certain pieces of information, but also you need to be able to collaborate on analysis. And I think that in and of itself is such a huge thing to move towards. That is the foreseeable future in terms of changing how we do these things together, and that's all going to be enabled by technologies.
All right, Beju, and then we're just in a couple of weeks, you'll be taking the stage at Stockholm Fintech Week.
Yeah.
Can you give us a sneak peek of what we can expect to hear from you on stage?
So on stage, it's really similar to what we've been discussing today. Is actually what the challenges, why it's a challenge, how we can face into it, what the key considerations are, and then what the future looks like, and then a bit of a call to action.
Exciting.
Yeah, very excited.
Very good. Well, look forward to see you there.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Beju.